everyone, Yvette Young here, and I'm here today at Line 6 with my friends from Guitarcenter, and we're gonna take a look at the Helix Stadium XL. And right next to me, I have Klein from Line 6 who's gonna help me dive into some of these sounds.
Yep.
So I heard you were one of the people to develop this equipment?
One of many. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. I guess if you could encapsulate your overall goal and your intention, your dream for people who use this product, what would that be? The
biggest thing for me as a product designer is like, how can you make the process of creating cool new sounds fun? And it's such a chore so many times, and you're in the studio and it's fun playing, it's fun jamming, it's fun getting that feedback, that sort of push and pull you get from real gear. And how do you encapsulate that into a piece of digital hardware? And how do you actually make the process of dialing in really cool sounds so seamless and fun that you just do it instead of going, nah, I don't really need to bother. It's too complicated. I'm fine with what I have. That sort of was the North Star all the way through. How do you make it sound good to be inspiring, but also fun and easy to use to inspire you to keep pushing the type of sounds that you would imagine yourself making? If an artist happens to create a sound that they wouldn't normally create, that's kind of the big thing for us.
One thing that I've really loved about all the Line 6 products I've been using is that it's just made that tone alchemy component of it so convenient. Like auditioning how something would sound parallel, auditioning different amps, being able to swap what my chorus and fuzz sound like in different orders, you know? All of that just is so convenient. It used to be just touch of a button, but I see right here that this is a touch screen. I've been really enjoying the fact that it's a touch screen. I feel like that's so intuitive, and the fact that I can just drag stuff around and feels like almost like using a phone or something.
That's sort of an obsession for us. How few steps can you get the sound in your head into the silicon?
You know, anything involving a lot of menu diving and things like that, I get intimidated by, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm used to just turning knobs and like pressing switches, and I don't want to get like
There's no
lost.
Menu diving, it's all there.
I know, I'm so grateful for that component. Like for me, immediately, it just felt like so inviting to use, and having everything laid out visually for me is a big win. And the fact that even you can like, there's over here, you can click a button, it tells you a little bit about what it's modeling after, like that's so cool.
Tell you how to use the preset, and if you want, you can even hear that preset in real time.
Wow. That's so cool that you can upload, or I guess people have uploaded their samples here, right?
Yeah, and then next year you'll be able to record your own clips in there as well, and then attach that. So then the artistry of the music making process is now ingrained into the, I guess, the sound design process too. So.
I think the original allure for me of having a piece of gear like this with all the effects and amps in one is just obviously convenience. Like, you know, we all live in a day and age where touring and flying is really expensive. So to be able to just put this in a bag is like, that's amazing. So convenience is what was seductive to me about it initially. But I think another big appeal for me now is just how amazing everything sounds here. I know earlier in the green room, we were just messing around with some things, trying to replicate some of the sounds I would get with my pedal board. And I was actually like, oh my gosh, like I want to record this directly. And it's cool because you can just like plug this in, right? As your interface. And
via USB or XLR, and if you already have an interface, however you want.
So I think, you know, we can sit here and talk about stuff, but I'm just really looking forward to hearing it. I have some sounds that I feel like are the bread and butter. My live rig, are you down to help me recreate some of them on the Helix Stadium?
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome.
So let's create a new preset from scratch. What do you want to name it?
Let's just call it Chorus.
Chorus. All right, so there's our chorus. All right, so
JC120.
JC120. And most of your effects are before the amp, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to put the JC120, I'm going to route this down to path 2 so we have plenty of room because I know you're going to probably want to add a ton of effects. If you select an empty block, I'm going to go into amp and I can scroll. I'm just going to type in
Oh, you can
JC.
search. That's great. Jazz Rivet 120, there it is.
Is that it? All right, there it is. It auto-loaded the cab.
Awesome.
And before we probably want to listen to this and make sure that it's dialed in before we add too many effects.
Cool.
JC120, all right, so if that sounds all right, we can tweak some things and then go on to effects, or...
Yeah, let's do it. Clean.
So we're good? All right, all right. So what's the first effect then?
Maybe an EQ block just in case. Sometimes choruses get stuff dark.
Sure, so we want that at the end or the beginning?
Maybe at the end.
All right, so let's add an EQ, parametric EQ, so we can dial it in.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
That's so cool that you have this.
Should we leave this
Yeah,
blank
let's
until
leave
we
it
know?
blank
So we
and
have
then
it there.
play
All
around
right,
with it.
great.
Right, let's do just a chorus, just traditional stereo chorus.
So stereo, so we want it after the amp. We can pull up just a normal chorus.
Nice, yes, I love it. I already love it. Okay, cool. I have a dramatic depth chorus. Speed, I like a slow. Maybe like a parallel reverb over that.
Okay, so I think you like the glitz reverb, right?
Yeah. Oh, wait, first let's put a delay after this and let's put reverb over the whole thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that glitz down here.
Cool.
And let's put, what kind of delay do we want? So we used, I think, the transistor tape.
Right.
Yep. And we had it set to quarter notes.
And then tap it in.
Yep.
The reverb's on right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Glitz, turn that off.
There you go.
Nice, I like that. Love that. Cool.
All right.
And now let's add that parallel reverb back in.
That's right, we want this parallel, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna drag that to a
sorry. I
parallel
just made
path.
it like
Now it's mixed to 100, yep.
Cool.
But we can turn down the B path
There we go.
too.
There we go. I just want it to be like a little kiss.
All right, perfect.
Cool. I just kind of want like a Cure-ish sound, you know?
Sure, oh
Like-
yeah, yep.
Maybe we can play with that EQ a little bit.
Okay.
If you want to drag it around.
We're gonna thin it out a lot.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that there's going to be automation.
Yeah, so later this year we have a Shoegaze engine that will be able to automate a lot of the functionality, switch your snapshots, automate your looper functions. So
That's
you can
so
say,
cool.
hey, at the beginning of the verse, I want it to hit record on the looper. And then at the end of the verse, I want it to play that. Then for the crazy solo, you can have it go up an octave and flip backwards if you wanted to. You don't have to hit a single foot switch. You just let this take care of everything for you.
That's so cool. Because like I'm listening to you just dragging around this parametric EQ right now. And I think like EQ is one of those things where I would probably want to automate during my set a bit, like different settings. Like if I were to play like an intro riff, I want it to sound like filtered and kind of like, I don't know, just like super no low end, kind of thin, and then have it like come in, you know, full force. I think that could be a cool application of it.
Yeah, so just suck out all the low end, probably, or, you know, make it really thin sounding. And then when the first verse kicks in or the drums kick in, the whole thing opens.
Exactly.
Yep,
Do you want to like sweep it while I'm playing that riff?
Sure. Let's see, it's already on an EQ, so I can just turn it off too.
Okay.
So.
Love that. That's cool.
So we started with the JC120 and it auto-loaded the cab, and you wanted the chorus, so we added the chorus. We wanted that in stereo, so we made sure that was after the amp, parallel reverb, and a transistor tape delay that's set to quarter notes. And then we have an EQ at the very end that we can turn on and off to filter the entire signal.
Yeah, like a filter.
Yep.
Just for funsies, just to hear a different sound, could we try a ping pong delay? Because we can hear it in stereo, right?
Absolutely. We can hear it in stereo if it's after the amp.
Let's move it.
I'll tell you what, let's turn off the transistor so we still have it. And let's go to stereo ping pong. And then this is set to quarter note too.
So I can tap it. So a lot of my songs, I try to make a seamless set with my band Covet, and because I don't love talking in the mic.
Yeah.
So I try to always have like little interludes, or like, you know, I have songs where I just start playing something kind of like emotional and ambient. A lot of those I use like things like, I have a signature Walsh pedal, the etherealizer, the Chi etherealizer, and then I have the hologram microcosm, and those have like granular components to it.
Yeah.
And on my HX Stomp, I always wanted to create a preset that would kind of encapsulate that so I could use that live.
Which amp do we want to start with today, or with this preset?
Let's use AC30 because I also love driving some of the granular stuff.
Okay.
Like pushing it, not driving it.
Sure.
There's like a bunch of AC30s on here,
There are
right?
a few. Here's the Agoura AC30.
Okay,
It's
cool.
going to auto pull up 2x12 silver bell. We can change that as well.
Okay.
You're talking granular, so let's pull up the glitch delay. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that one is so fun.
Yep.
I love that you can control, because right now what it's doing is it's giving you pitch shifting capabilities, reverse capabilities, and then also it's additionally scrambling what you're doing, right? That's the shuffle, pitch, and the reverse.
Yeah, so these knobs here control actually the four of these, they determine the likelihood of the repeats doing something.
Gotcha.
So right now, 50% of the repeats will shuffle, like they'll reorder. 50% of the repeats will go either up an octave or down an octave, and that's based on these two parameters here. So if you wanted to only go up an octave, you would set interval 1 to 0.
Okay.
And then reverse is it's half of the repeats will flip backwards.
Okay, cool.
So
Let's see what it's... Okay, cool.
and you want the repeats down an octave and up an octave?
I think octave is good.
Okay.
I always have trouble with fifth because I feel like it traps you in like
It does.
pentatonic
It totally
prison.
does. Yeah.
I call it pentatonic prison. What I love about these sorts of things is it introduces like random, like little happy moments.
accidents, yeah.
And then
Yep.
those add harmonic content to whatever ambient thing you're playing and fill in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try to make some space. I think we have the happy little accidents.
So reverbs.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say reverb.
Let's do the glitz. In addition to this, could I also have like another delay that's more like traditional, like a like a simple delay?
Sure.
I guess. Or what's that? This would be a good opportunity for EQ because I feel like the low end's a bit dominant, right? Like it's a bit muddy. So let's get some of that low end out of there.
Okay, before it even hits the amp. Sure, so we saw the parametric EQ. We can pull up a 10-band graphic. You can use the sliders or you can use the knobs.
That's already so much cleaner. I wasn't planning on playing driven chords at the end, but I heard the way it was pushing, you know, that AC30 sound, it was getting a little broken up, and I was like, sounds like I'm right by my amp.
Yeah, kicks right in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love, like, you know, some of the more pretty ethereal ambient sounds. I think, you know, of course they sound gorgeous clean, but I love using them in conjunction with effects like fuzz and overdrive for a little bit of intensity.
Well, we can add that too. And this was really simple. This was just the AC30 with the matching 2x12 silver bell. And then we wanted to do sort of that glitchy, granular sort of delay that gives you sort of the happy accidents surprises into a glitz reverb, into a transistor tape. Then you have a lot of that kind of blooming low end stuff. And then we
the EQ.
carved out a little bit of the low end here before it even hits the amp. So
I always wish, like, all the gear I have has a built-in EQ, because after I started getting into like recording and producing, I'm just like, man, that delay is awesome, but it's getting muddy, and I wish I could like take out some.
So a lot of these do, not everyone, but a lot of them do have low cuts and high cuts.
Okay,
so
perfect.
you can go in and like the glitch delay if you want to get rid of all of the low end, especially if you have everything coming down an octave.
Yes.
All right, I just want the octaves there. I want them a little softer, so now you can carve that out too.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, I think, you know, having things like this offers a lot of opportunity also in a live setting to like mix yourself so that you're not stepping over someone else's frequencies too.
Yep.
Speaking of fuzz and overdrive, I feel like we've been in pretty zone for the metal people out there. Let's do
a little noisy.
A little noisy. Let's do a fuzz.
I'm just going to type in fuzz so we know what our fuzzes are. We have a lot of fuzzes.
I have experience with the Dark Dove.
Okay. This is based on the EHX Russian Big Muff. So this is just the fuzz. We probably need to go in an amp before it gets too crazy. We want to try a deluxe?
Deluxe.
Well, we don't even have to, let's just type in deluxe. We have US Lux Black, and it pulled up the 1x12. All right, so here's fuzz into a deluxe. You want to tweak the amp at all, or?
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit boomy, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I love it. Currently at home I have a fuzz, and then I have this like bright preamp that's like also a gain pedal, and I kind of use it to like sculpt the fuzz a little more.
Cool. Yep. Their boosts are towards the top, so.
Right. Okay. This is all before the amp right now?
It is right now, yeah.
Oh, let's put, maybe, could I put this after the amp?
After the cab?
Yeah, after. Okay, it's wild sounding. Okay, I'm about to complicate stuff. Could I run this parallel so you get, like, you can't do it before, right? But you can do it after. Like, if I want to run it parallel, so I have my original guitar cymbal blended in with like a really fuzzy.
Sure, done.
Oh, okay, cool. That's so easy to do on this. Like, wow. Okay. Wanted to hear like a little more definition. So now let's put it in like kind of like shoegazy world with a delay.
Okay. Where do you want the delay?
After the boost.
After the boost?
I'll just do like, I'm boring.
No, simple delay.
Like,
done.
I feel like anything with like harmonic content will just get totally blitzed
it
by
kind
the
of it kind of will. Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's like no point. Can we get an octave in there?
Sure. Octave up, octave down.
Down.
Down. So I'm going to, let's see, pitch. We can keep it simple and do like a Boctaver.
Okay.
Which is an OC2. Let's turn off the -2 octave, so we just have 1 octave down.
Usually in my live setup, I kind of like have like this epic, like fuzzy delayed sound, and then I just throw on the octaver during like really dense chuggy sections or like low sections where I want that extra kick in the stomach.
Yep. So it looks like for this one, we started with the fuzz. So we ended up using like a Big Muff Pi here and going into the deluxe. Then we added a boost after the cab. That's what made it that,
Yeah.
which is almost like miking up a cab and then running it through a distortion plugin, which you can do, which is really easy to do. And then we added just a really simple delay. And at the very beginning, we have an octave down that we can turn on and off.
So cool. Sorry, my gears are turning in my head right now. Earlier we were using that feedbacker. Could we introduce that in this chain and have it be momentary so that anytime I sustain, I could go and latch it on?
Yes, done.
Cool. So now if I were to press it.
I'll make it closer to you. Let's move it over here. So it's
How do you
right
move
next
stuff?
to you. Tap two,
Both?
touch two at once, and it asks you if you want to swap. Hit yes. So I moved it down there, and it should be momentary now. And we can actually have it come in sooner too. So right now it's set to 2 seconds. So now it'll kick in like immediately.
Can I hear it? Not momentary, but just like on, like I can just turn it on.
Oh, latching?
Yeah.
Yep. Touch hold. There you go.
And then latching, assign block.
Yep. It's already signed. So
okay,
you just.
So now I can like. Do octave down. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I was just playing around with it.
Yep.
That's really fun. So I do a lot of like random like video game scores and like some film scoring stuff these days, and there's like sound effects that I use with my rig, and I was kind of curious if we could replicate it on this.
You can try.
The Helix, yeah. So the sound I'm thinking of is a DD3 stutter, but I pair it with the Digitech Ricochet. So as it's plummeting, it's like stuttering, and then it's just the stuttering is also plummeting with the pitch. So it sounds like a helicopter.
All right, so that means that we want the stutter to go into the pitch. So let's start with a delay. Let's try vintage digital. And how fast is the stutter?
Really, like feedback up, yep. Nice. That's cool.
Like that?
Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect?
Yeah.
Okay,
great.
so now we need it to drop down an octave over time, you said. All right, let's try. Holly pitch can do that. We want it down an octave. And how long do you want the shift to be?
Like a slow, like a boom.
Let's try 3 seconds.
Cool.
And then, do you want it to do this, or do you want it to go down linearly? Do you want it to go down really fast and then slow down?
Linear, maybe?
Linear? Okay. Okay, so let's try this.
Nice. Nice. Now let's put a fuzz on it.
All right, that was at the beginning.
Cool.
Okay.
Could we latch the two so that it's like one, it both happens at the same time?
The vintage digital and the poly pitch?
Oh, I was saying so the plummet and the DD3 stutter happens at the same time.
Yes, so you select one. I'm going to tap and hold the other one. Sign it, so now, let's make sure they're both on. So now, if you play.
Nice. Amazing. So like. It goes infinitely. Let me hear it without the fuzz really quick. When I hit the chord, could you hit that?
Yep.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Cool.
There it is.
Great. Yeah.
Yep.
That's just a sound that I use a lot for things, and I like, you know, having the delay kind of build intensity and just like plummet into just, it feels like, you know, the floor is falling out from under you.
Cool.
My first impression of this was just immediately the touch screen component of it is just like a game changer for me. I was already able to just so quickly learn how to drag things around. And then just hearing the sounds, like, man, that AC30, hearing the way it broke up when I played the ambient stuff, like, you could have convinced me that I was in front of my amp.
I know, it's a surprise. You're playing live and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That was an example of, you know, I have something I plan in my head, but then the gear inspires me to change my course because I just hear it and I'm reacting interactively in the moment with it. And I think that's a sign of a successful piece of equipment, is something that's going to almost like, I can predict what it's going to do, but it's also going to, like, not to sound too like hippie or whatever, but it's going to like talk back to me and like give me ideas and push me to play a different way. And ultimately, I think a lot, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We just explored like 3 basic sounds that I would
just messing around on a Tuesday afternoon. Yeah.
Just goofing around. But I honestly, after seeing all the combinations and the fact that you can so easily put stuff parallel, put stuff before your amp, like after, I can't wait to go and like mess around with some of the different combinations and create little recipes I can save. I would bring this live, like heartbeat. Like, it's so easy to use.
There's a lot more coming too.
I personally can't wait for the automation stuff because I think that's gonna make a lot of people's lives easier.
Yeah, and whether you're running just intros or segues, or if you're running entire accompaniment, you know, if you know, you can route the clicks separately to your drummer, and then the drummer has their own mix.
Yeah.
So you can keep, you know, they can control, you know, how much click they have, and then, hey, choose this song, it auto recalls your presets, and you know, when the verse comes, it loads your verse snapshot, when the chorus kicks in, it loads your chorus snapshot, and when you hold down that feedback thing, you can have it turn on the feedback for you too. So.
That's so cool. You mentioned earlier that other Helix users can just they can just take their old presets and put them into this, right?
Yeah, from day one. So if you have a Helix or an HX product, you'll be able to load your presets into this as well. So
cool. Yeah, I love it. I had a blast. Thanks for taking the time to.
Thank you. This has been fun.
If you want to learn more about the Line 6 Helix Stadium XL, you can go to guitarcenter.com, contact one of their expert gear advisors, or you can go to your local GC.